is the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Let's do this, guys. Yes, sir. How are you doing, Alex? Are you doing great? Are you doing good?
Yeah. We're doing good, buddy. We're doing good.
All right. Well,
we have a special guest with us today.
Yes.
But before we get to our guest, we have some reviews that we're going to do. Jeff, why don't you read off some of the reviews that some of our insiders, that's what we're calling all the listeners of the pod. They're our insiders. So, Jeff, why don't you read off some of those?
So we asked you guys, hey, our goal is by the end of the year to get 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts, and we got some people that went ahead and took that challenge. So for one is from Mike from the U.S. Open. Which Mike from the U.S. Open? I don't know. It's Mike Sawyer or Mike McCoy. Maybe it's both of them. I don't know. But
That's a good point.
They say few people had the experience and knowledge base of competitive karate that Alex and Jeff have. Thoroughly entertaining and informative, and a great service to the martial arts community. So thank you, Mike.
I'm pretty much just riding on your coattails with all those compliments.
And now, so the other one is from Drew, our friend Drew Derek Bisbee, Team Full Circle member and current, I think, INMAC member. Entertaining and informative. He said Alex and Jeff are both well-versed and seasoned sport martial arts competitors with a good chemistry and lots of great stories to tell, specifically about North American martial arts tournaments and competitors, as well as some international events and athletes. They cover a wide variety of martial arts topics from their experience in competitions over the past 30 years. Good stuff. So,
again, guys, appreciate that, Drew.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the reviews. Make sure you guys go subscribe Apple Podcasts, give us that 5-star review, and write a 5-star rating and give us a review. Thank you guys.
Now, dude, I'm jacked.
Me too.
We have with us on the show WWE Cruiserweight Ariya Daivari.
Yes,
yeah, Ariya is probably the most famous person who's ever been on the cast.
No,
this is pretty dang dope.
This is pretty cool.
How you doing, Ariya?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Dude, I'm awesome now.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
man.
so how long have you guys been doing this podcast now?
We're coming close to a year.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
August, I think middle August will be a year. Will be our 1-year reunion.
Yeah,
so the show. We got to do something special for that. I believe that's what it is. I believe it's August, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah. So we've been doing it there. Travis Plowden is the founder.
You
of
said
the
reunion.
Did I say reunion?
Reunion show.
Oh, that's
anniversary is the word, but yeah.
You can do that, I suppose. Think about it a different way. I don't know. Yeah. Anniversary. This August will be our 1-year anniversary show. Travis Plowden is the creator and founder of the Martial Arts Internet Network. And we, the Inside Scoop, is one of the podcasts within the Martial Arts Internet Network. We have CTE, which is the Chris and Travis Experience. We have Fist, Kicks, and Flicks with Eugene Plowden and Mike Gibbs. And we have Raw with Mimi and Lump. So I heard that there's going to be a new pod dropping. We don't know who or what it is yet, but it's going to be awesome, I guess.
Keep losing the connection a little bit. Keep saying there was a problem with the network.
You doing all right over there, man?
Think so?
Might be. You know what? This happened this week. Did you get this? Did you have this happen to you, Jeff? Where there was like apparently anybody who had anything T-Mobile, like for a couple of days, decided everything like went down for like I don't know, like 5 hours or something.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything about that?
I've had that problem with different things in my virtual classes and things like that over the past few weeks, and I mean, all it's done here is rain. So everything's been bad.
Well, yo, let's get right into it. Ariya, tell me, what's it like right now? How is I pay attention to you from afar. We catch up every now and then. I'll give everybody just a quick little brief background. I mentioned this here and there throughout the pod. I know Ariya for years because Ariya was one of my karate students. Ariya is a second-degree black belt before becoming one of the main cruiserweight contenders in the WWE. And so he's not just a great entertainer and wrestler. He is a martial artist, which is why we want him on the pod. But how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great, dude, and I appreciate that's a hell of an intro. Thank you.
I mean, it's no WWE intro, but I got a loud mouth.
Yeah. No, man, it's great. I mean, right now, obviously, it's very weird circumstances for our job. So I actually got to do the very first empty arena. Like when this stuff really started taking off, like I don't know, around March, I was supposed to fly to Detroit and do a show, and like literally right before I go to bed, I get a text saying, "Hey, you got to go to Orlando, Florida instead, and go do an empty arena show." And we go there, and we have to do a whole show with no audience, and it's insane. Like, and then they're still doing it. Everyone's still doing it, and it's not what you prepare for. It's not what you train for. You train to wrestle in front of crowds, and no crowd makes it so different. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How does that work? Because when you watch the shows from TV, like 60% of the show that we're watching is crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fans. So like, how does that function? I mean, I got to give it to the organization. I mean, they turned on a dime. That was cool. But how does that function? How does that work? What did you guys do?
Well, so here, let me ask you this, Jeff, as a fan. So I'm a wrestler. I'm actual on the performing side of it. So like, I need a crowd. I need a crowd in order to do my job. As a fan, how much different is it now for you when you're watching at home? Like, is it a lot different? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I have to change my mindset, and for me, I think for me being such a diehard fan, I can enjoy it for what it is, right?
Okay.
But I think maybe even the lapsed fan or even the fan that like is kind of just, oh, Raw's on, I want to watch it, but not really into it all, like they like the word WWE or, I don't think I think that's why in some instances the ratings have gone down, right? Because those people, they have to be like, oh, this is not the same. Like there's not this noise or stuff. And for me, that's what I think. But I appreciate it even more because like, man, you gotta be really good to be able to do that, right?
Right.
And you also are forgetting about something too. You can hear everything, which in some ways it's kind of cool. Like at WrestleMania, when Charlotte and Rhea Ripley are going out and they're saying all these things that you don't normally like hear. That was kind of cool.
Right.
But only to some extent, right? Like after a while, it's like, okay, all right. So I mean, I think the real hardcore fan, they're gonna watch it, they're gonna love it,
Right. And I think a lot of fans also understand, like, at least we're all hoping, like, this is temporary, so I can stick it out for maybe a year and a half, but eventually we will get back to what we do and what we love.
Correct. Yeah, and the coolest thing that AEW did at first, and then now WWE has done is have the guys in the audience.
So much
all
better.
You need is noise. Even if it's not even the same noise, just noise, and it makes a big difference.
Well, that's an excellent point.
Yeah. So that part's been kind of cool to just see what everybody does, But at the same time, we've gotten some of the best matches we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan was amazing the other day.
Phenomenal, yeah.
The Edge and Edge and Randy Orton match was awesome. Yep. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happened. I also think, and I'm just going on as a fan, but I think some people that had a hard time being like in front of the mic and don't do well with the crowd interrupting them have done really well as far as on the mic. And in some ways that's better because you don't get interrupted, right?
Right. There's lots of times when you're trying to accomplish something and the crowd may not agree with it and they may take it over. So you're right. It is a great time. I feel like it's a great time to really push forward a lot more storytelling because now you have the platform to do it uninterrupted, like you said.
Yeah. So
well, but now with that though, Ariya, has there been a time where you've had a heckler do something like that and you rolled with it?
Oh yeah, of course. You can do that thing all. And here's the thing that I said, like you mentioned, when they started adding some of the guys around the on the other side of the barricade to just make some noise. Like when I was an independent wrestler, I've had plenty of shows where I wrestle in front of like 20 people, 25 people, so it's not that unusual. When it was nobody there and you're just wrestling straight up empty arena and it's silent, that sucks. But like you said, you got 20, 30 people clamoring, making some noise, you can feed off that a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That might be a good segue point right there. Let's really get into it. I mean, I remember hearing a little bit about how you started just because we were in the karate school talking about it. I'll never forget, we were in the karate school and you were telling me now, Sean's your older brother. Sean was a wrestler before you.
Right.
And I remember you were like 15, 16, and you were telling me, you're like, yeah, man, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be in the WWE. And I'm like, you gotta get out of here. You're not really, come on now. And I remember telling you, like, no, man. Sean's telling me I gotta do this. I gotta hit the gym. And now remember, you and I were lifting a couple times. That's when I really first started lifting. You and I were lifting together, and I'm like, come on, man. Get out of here. You really? And then sure enough, you did it. And you were doing like, what were some of your early shows like? And how did that, because you were telling me you did independent shows, like 20 plus, or 20 people in the crowd arenas. Tell me how the beginning started.
Yeah, so I attribute a lot of my success to martial arts because I feel like that trained me from a very young age. Like I started with national karate when I was in fourth grade, I think, and I did all the way up until my sophomore year, and that's when I got my second degree black belt. And around that time is when I wanted to start pro wrestling. Like you said, I was like 15, 16, I wanted to start pro wrestling. And my brother, who was in the WWE at the time, he kept telling me, why don't you wait a little bit? Wait till you're 18, 19, just wait a little bit longer. So he said, what do you think about joining the high school wrestling team for the time being? So that kind of is why I stopped martial arts and I started focusing on high school wrestling. I did that sophomore and junior year, and it gave me a good background and it was kind of nice to do it. But at the same time, my heart wasn't really in that at all. So, and wrestling, amateur wrestling is a tough sport, tough sport. And if you don't if you're not enjoying it, then I don't know why you'd ever want to do it.
And Minnesota's a really good wrestling state.
And that was the other thing too. My high school, I went to Wayzata. They had like 4 or 5 kids at every weight class. Some high schools couldn't even fill a full roster. We had a competitive for varsity and JV, so it was super hard. Yeah. And by my senior year, I said, look, I don't want to wait any longer. Like this amateur wrestling, it's not what I want to do. I want to start pro wrestling. And that's when I started my summer going into my senior year of high school. I found a wrestling school, a pro wrestling school, and I just started training. And then about 6, 7 months later, I got on my first show. Again, it was just in I don't remember, like small little bar in front of 20, 30 people, just to get experience. And I had the time of my life. Like it was exactly what I thought it would be, and I loved every second of it. And I was like, I'm hooked. Like I'm all in. I'm all in on pro wrestling.
When the heck does that happen? When someone goes, it was exactly like I thought it would be, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
I loved it. Said nobody other than you.
Right, and you're right. It could have been a colossal letdown, but I remember and even there were flubs and mess ups in the match, and I knew it. My brother was really good about telling me hey man, you're brand new, you're gonna mess up, it's gonna happen. But just the energy of doing it and being on because I emulated it so much with my friends in the backyard and on trampolines and this and that, but to be a part of an official show and I have an entrance and music and the ring announcer says my name and I have a match in front of crowds, that was like a dream come true. And I said okay, I want to do this at the highest level. I need to get to WWE. So I set out on a 10-year journey throughout the independent scene before I finally got signed. But I remember after that first match, I was like, I'm in. I'm ready to make this a reality.
That's cool. All right. So
now,
I want
go
to
ahead, Jeff.
A little bit though. So, all right. How old were you when your brother was at the height of his heel persona? All right. So let's say, and for people that maybe don't know, Sean he started as pretty much the manager of a really controversial character, Muhammad Hassan, right after 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this was really what was that like? How old were you when that was happening?
So I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
So my brother, he started doing the independent wrestling around Minnesota too, and I went to his shows and stuff like that. And then he started getting a few tryouts with WWE. And the crazy thing is, he was 19 years old. He started pro wrestling when he was, I think, 14. He started training, so he started way before or way younger than when I started. But he started getting like looks from the WWE when he was like 18, 19, which was pretty unheard of at the time. Not a lot of guys in WWE history have ever done that. And when they came up with this character, they wanted to do like a Middle Eastern character that was feeling profiled and attacked after September 11th. This was 2004, so only a couple years later.
Yeah, correct.
And they also knew about my brother. They said, "Hey, there's this Persian kid from Minneapolis who speaks fluent Farsi, and he's a really good wrestler. He's in really good shape. Like maybe we can use him as well too." And it was just kind of right place at the right time, and he was on TV, I think, before he was even 21 years old. Like
Wow.
it was pretty crazy. And yeah, and I was a freshman in high school. And like I said, we were both just wrestling fans, and
Yeah.
I'm a freshman in high school watching my 20-year-old brother on Monday Night Raw, what we used to watch together. It's like, what is life? Like, what is happening right now? Like, it was unbelievable.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So you were at least in high school, so it'd be different if you were like in elementary or middle school when all of the, like your brother is like the one saying, well, not saying bad things, but he's the way they pitched it was he was the heel and the anti-American and everything else. And then eventually they had to get rid of the character because of when it all happened, right? And we never saw Muhammad Hassan really ever again.
Yeah, tell us how that happened.
Yeah, so it was the thing was the character was pretty controversial. I don't know what they thought the end game was going to be with
wasn't
that.
Sean's idea, was it?
No, that was WWE's idea, and they've done it before. They've done a foreign bad guy. They've done it in a lot, and the same thing.
It's a traditional wrestling
character, yeah,
absolutely.
And I mean, in Japanese wrestling, they have the big foreign American come in, and he's the bad guy. It's an old thing in pro wrestling. But this is, after September 11th. It's a pretty sensitive time, and I think they were just they were pushing the envelope probably just too close to home, and they got a lot of complaints from networks and fans and stuff like that. So it was something they just tried, and at that time, I don't think it was the right thing to do. So eventually, they did have to end the character. There was some terrorist things happened in Europe on England. The same day they did some risque stuff like that on SmackDown, and it was just, and the network kind of said that we have to pull this character. So that was kind of the end of that. But luckily, they knew my brother was like a very well trained wrestler. They knew like this is really a tough break for him. So they ended up keeping him, and he continued on for a couple more years just as a singles wrestler on his own.
Yeah, and he took I feel like it was maybe 6 months to a year break on TV.
Yep. Took a little time off.
Yeah, but like Muhammad, the guy who was there managing, we never saw him again. From what I've heard from listening to other podcasts, he was actually Italian, right?
Yeah, he was like Italian. He had some sort of like Arabic somewhere in him, but he was predominantly Italian.
Yeah, predominantly Italian. So so it's just crazy how that all happens. But I was just wondering, and we'll get into more of that as your career goes. But did that motivate you to get into it, or be like, okay, I don't know if I want that much heat or whatever,
No, so to me, I always knew it was a character. I was already, because I wanted to become a wrestler. I would, I consider myself a quote unquote smart fan. I started going online and reading about angles and this kind of stuff. I was like really entrenched in it because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So, and also being just young, you're kind of just naive to the world. Like you're not, when you're 15, 16, your moral barometer is not really shaped. So you're not, all I see is my older brother on WWE TV with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was like, whoa, this is the craziest thing ever.
Goodness.
At 15 years old, I don't wrap my head around the fact. I'm like, oh, this is also very politically incorrect. So, like it was cool, and that's just how I viewed it. I just viewed it as my brother on television,
Awesome. All right. So what school did you go to? What wrestling school did you go to?
It was a place called Midwest Pro Wrestling, MPW. It was this facility in Minneapolis, which the wrestling schools today are awesome. There's awesome wrestling schools all over the country now. Majority of wrestling schools that the guys from my generation went to and before was just someone had a wrestling ring in a warehouse and they charged some sort of admission for you to come and get
Just
trained.
come in there and goof around
Some
and
places had
practice.
reputable trainers, some places didn't, but
Yeah.
I just went somewhere and learned the basics for 6, 7 months and started doing shows and really just learning as I was going.
That's cool. That's cool. And you
Yeah.
said 10 years as an independent wrestler. Where did that take you as far as like traveling? Did you go overseas? Was it mostly in America?
It was mostly America, mostly in the Midwest. I wrestled anywhere that I can drive to. I've driven down to, 10, 11 hours down to St. Louis and wrestled there. Wrestled all over Canada. I got to wrestle in India, which was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it kind of took me a few different countries, bunch of different states, tons of small towns. I've wrestled in literally every small town in Minnesota you can possibly do.
You did a few shows at First Avenue, didn't you?
Yeah, so that was like kind of my home promotion that I wrestled for. We did because First Avenue is a very like obviously big place in Minneapolis, a house that Prince built. So it always has a cool atmosphere to it. And the very first time, pro wrestling's ran there for years. My brothers wrestled there a long, long time. The very first time First Avenue had an official sellout at First Ave for pro wrestling, me and a guy named Eric Cannon were like the headlining match. We were wrestling in the main
Get the
event.
heck out
Yeah.
of
That's
here.
awesome.
Me and him were wrestling in the main event, and right before we went out there, he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, the security guard told me they're like officially sold out. They're not letting anybody else come in." And I was like, we're about to go out there as the last match, like the headlining match, and I was like, "All right, I'm taking some credit saying I helped sell out First Ave for the first time for pro wrestling."
Now, at that point, was that before or after the magic carpet ride?
This was after people that this was a
That's
this was
what
a,
I had to think.
Yeah.
This was
I knew this move was coming.
Yeah, this was a very this crowd used to chant "Fly Sheik Fly" because I was Sheik Ariya Daivari. It was kind of playing homage to the Iron Sheik, who I also said he was another Iranian wrestler of the past.
Yeah.
But
How'd you come up with that move?
That was actually my brother's move. He did it a few times as a goof, as a joke. And then I was like, man, you can like really run with this as a serious thing. So I started doing it too. And he was kind of like, yeah, man, you can have it. And I was like, oh, great. So he kind of bestowed it upon me and kind of
then you did it all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it was like? As funny as it sounds, I've been wrestling at shows like some yearly festival or something like that, some carnival, and I'll come back a year later and someone will be like, "Hey, it's the magic carpet guy." Like they may not remember my name exactly, but they remember me. So I said,
they know the move.
You gotta stand out somehow. You gotta get them to remember somehow. And the funniest thing is, people could be booing me that whole show. Boogs, I'm always a bad guy. Booing me. I bust out the magic carpet, and all of a sudden, I'm the coolest guy. Everyone stops booing and cheers that for a second, then goes back to booing me. Like, everyone else.
That's pretty cool.
Everyone I can imagine the chance, man, for that.
Yeah. Man. That's the stuff about independent wrestling that I miss. WWE is a little bit more serious, as it should be. It's a TV product, but on independent shows, you kind of do whatever you want. So it was like for me to be like a serious heel, it was kind of like a funny move, but I was like, whatever, man. I'm just here to like entertain people and have fun.
Right, man. That's so awesome.
And that's exactly what you have. I mean, you just had that niche ability to just you had a niche, you had a look, you had a character, and you had the entertainment value to you. Right. And I started thinking about that. I was like, man, because when you really put yourself into it, like, man, you took off.
Right.
And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I don't think if I was as into it as you, I don't think I could have done that. I don't think so. All right. How am I gonna come up with a move like that? What am I? I can't pull that thing off. Right? You're gonna boo me out the building.
Well,
I've always believed in being like invested in some sort of character. Like the word gimmick isn't really used anymore now, but like wrestling is characters. You look at the guys that I watched a lot growing up. I obviously like Hogan and Macho Man were towards like the end of their careers when I started watching a lot. But like Austin and Rock and Triple H and like those guys, like they were still guys, regular guys, but there was something about them, Stone Cold was a redneck, The Rock seemed like kind of like a cocky jock, like the modern day athlete type guy, like, and those things stood out. So I said I always wanted like a character as well, because especially if when you're an independent wrestler, you don't have the platform or luxury of television. You don't have commentators talking about you and explaining to everybody what your character is, So I have to just kind of do this myself on my entrance and on promos I cut and just my overall look. So people see, oh, he's wearing a turban. His name's Sheik Ariya Daivari. Fly Sheik Fly, Magic Carpet. We get it. We get what this character is,
Right.
And like I said, you just want to get people to remember something about you.
Right. Yeah. Man.
How did you make the switch from the Sheik to the character you bring out now? And when did that happen?
Yeah.
So that's something I played around with a little bit on the independent scene. It was called even though I wore the turban and the thing, like I didn't really act like a foreign bad guy. It was like I said, it was almost like an homage, like doing like a throwback hipster type thing with Iron Sheik, but I was still like myself. I was still announced from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I didn't talk with an accent or nothing like that. Like I talked about normal stuff. Like that was just like I said, just kind of my look. So a few times I kind of played around with the fact that I have a lot of cousins and friends who live out in Los Angeles, and there's a very big Persian community out there as well too. And they're very Kardashian like the ones who live in Beverly Hills and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, and the thing that it's always kind of funny is that like, man, you go out there and you're the Middle Eastern bad guy. Like, why don't you like present us in a different light? I go, you know what? I should present it in a more accurate light. And when I see the Persian people out in LA, I was like, that always kind of made me chuckle a little bit. So I said, okay, that's a character that I think is, I like Kim Kardashian, the Kardashians. I'm like, they're the most popular people on TV. I said, that's what I'm going to do. I still want a character. And I said, I'm going to lean into it somehow. And that's kind of how I came up with him. Like a rich, snobby punk, and I feel like it's an easy character to be a bad guy as well, too. Nobody likes that guy.
Yeah.
And that's where all the flashy shirts came from too. Just obnoxious shirts I could wear.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Be honest though, you might wear one of them shirts out one night. You'd be like, you know what?
Oh yeah, of course.
Let's go. We'll go to
Miami.
I mean, let's bring it out.
Yeah, I mean, I do get compliments on them a lot. Sometimes I can't tell if people are being serious or they're just making fun of me. But like, they got like these gold shirts with like lions on them, with like necklaces and sunglasses on the lions and stuff like that. I'm like,
oh man, that's cool. Yeah. Well, it's cool to be able to see a different character because again, I mean, it's so much of the cliche and the stereotype and everything else, and it's good to see that there's other ones coming out like yourself and even Ali. He's been portraying himself and who he is. I listened to a podcast about him, and he went through that whole same thing of being the bad heel, bad guy. He's like, that's not who I am. Let me amp up who I am, and so it's really cool to be able to see you guys take it to the next level. So,
yeah, like I said, like eventually you do have to remember as your platform grows, like other people are watching. And I'd be lying if I didn't say when I got to WWE, you start hearing that more and more about people saying like, oh, I don't know if this character is cool. I don't know if this is PC or not or stuff like that. And like, I don't want to perpetuate that kind of stuff. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible and be a good guy. And I know WWE is watched by tons of kids. I'm not trying to mess that up. I don't want a dad to see something one day or a mom and say, no, you guys can't watch this anymore and turn it off because the characters are too controversial or something like that. Like pro wrestling's supposed to be fun. Pro wrestling's supposed to be entertainment. That's what I love to do. So that was another reason why to get away from that kind of stuff. Very similar to like what Ali did as well too. You just kind of have that aha realization. You go, okay, this is more than it's just pro wrestling to me, but it's more to other people, or it can be seen as more. So you got to kind of keep that in mind as you go forward.
Awesome.
So Ariya, tell me this, because I don't really know. Do you have the autonomy to be able to have a personality and change your persona however you want?
I mean, it depends. Like, I did this character like bouncing tons of ideas off different people and talking to my writer and you know, picking his brain and what he thinks about it. Like it's something, like I said, I toyed around with on the independent scene. I did it something kind of. There's a company called Ring of Honor, which is a smaller independent company, but they have some big publicity. And a lot of WWE's big stars are
Came from
WWE came from Ring of Honor. So I did it there a few times. So I got to test it out, and like fine tune it. And when I first came to WWE, I kind of wanted to be like a little bit more serious. So that's why I reverted back to kind of my old ways, because I didn't want to be. I guess I was worried about being seen as like a comedy guy when I said I want to be serious character, you know, or at least taken serious at first. But then eventually, like I said, I want something that kind of sticks out, because when you get to WWE and you see the guys who are succeeding and you go like, oh man, these guys are like big over the top characters. Like people can kind of connect with that kind of stuff. Like, you know, some guys can pull off not having an over the top character. That's just I don't know. I can't do that. I like having something I can play off of.
You got to be extra.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Then that's the like the flamboyancy of pro wrestling is what sucked me in as a kid when I first started. Like guys like The Rock and Austin talking all that crap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I became a wrestler, I said I'm always going to kind of keep that part of my repertoire as well too. But look, so eventually I wanted to make this character change official. So I went and actually spoke to Vince McMahon about it personally. We had a one-on-one conversation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because you know, you can talk to writers, you can talk to all your bosses and the other boys, but then I've been told by several wrestlers, like, if you want to get something done, like, there's one guy you go talk to, and he'll either it'll happen or not. Like, he'll tell you yes or no. Like, that's and
I'm sure your brother told you that too.
Yeah. And it took 3 tries, like 3 different TVs. I went and waited outside his office one time. He was just too busy. Another time they were filming something important with Braun, so he was too busy. And then the third time, and like people tell me when he comes and goes out of his office, people kind of notice if you're standing there and waiting. And eventually, if he kind of notices, like, oh, you've been like, you really need to talk to me about something. That third time I got in there and he listened to everything I said, and it was a very pleasant experience. Like, awesome. mind you, my heart was like beating out of my chest, because it's just me and Vince McMahon in a room, just the 2 of us, no one else in there, and it's me like basically pitching my future and hoping he gives it the thumbs up. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's move forward with that." And I like walked out of that room with the biggest smile on my face. I was like, damn, I just sold something to Vince McMahon, like pro wrestling. He's the pro wrestling godfather, and I sold him an idea and he liked it. Like, that's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. The fact that you were able to just go and have that conversation with him, and then he just went, yeah, it happens now.
Yeah, he actually the next week I got a backstage vignette where I had like a yellow Corvette that I pulled up in. Like, it was literally the next week they went and got me a rental to like introduce this character and all this kind of stuff. It was super cool. And then when I did the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, same thing. I asked the writer, I was like, do you think I can pull up in a Mercedes or a car or something? And he's like, I don't know, I can pitch it maybe, and that kind of stuff. And right there, I was like, you know what? I was like, this is one of those things I probably just have to go ask Vince, don't I? And he's like, yeah, probably. And I went and asked him, and again pitched him the idea, and I kind of brought the fact. I was like, you got me a Corvette once, like, can you get me a car again? And he's like, yeah, okay. He's like, let me talk to whoever I need to talk to figure out the logistics. And I show up to the pay-per-view, and there's like a beautiful Mercedes. I'm like, ooh, I think that's mine. And I got it from my entrance, and it was pretty cool. Like, it's little things like that. Like, I always think of this, that Vince McMahon has seen so much wrestling. He's seen so much wrestling that I don't know what you can impress him with.
Right. That's a good point.
Wrestling wise. Right. But I think he's still into like entrances and promos and gimmicks and characters. He still digs that kind of stuff. So I said,
big picture stuff.
Yeah. So I said, I think he's going to dig the fact seeing me pull up in a Mercedes. He'll see that and be like, okay, that's cool. Like, this kid gets it, or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Jeff, we need that for Sport Karate.
I know.
We need a team sponsor to pull us up in a Mercedes or Corvette right to the tournament entrance.
You gotta make a big entrance.
That'll be my intro for a forum, okay? Just like I'll walk it, I'll drive up in a car or maybe a golf.
But you'll have to do it ringside. But since you're be in the tournament, it'd have to be like one of those like toy car ones.
Hey, or you could get like a gator or something, you know, just do it, you know, whatever, man. Make it work. Do it. Drive up in a 4-wheeler, an ATV.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. They have a bus. That's right.
Who? What? JPM has a bus?
Yeah. So
do they use it?
You know
do they ever use it?
But yeah, sometimes.
Wow.
But
that's cool.
So the reason why I got into martial arts was because I was such a big wrestling fan, right? So my favorite wrestler was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Hell yeah.
So I'm like, all right, this guy's coming in a karate gi. I can't do wrestling around here. Let's do karate. So I did that.
That's awesome.
And as I kind of kept going and I became I did a lot of different things and stuff, but in forms, I became like a forms champion. And a lot of it was I added that kind of entertainment factor from pro wrestling into what I do, you know, making sure.
I'm going to pause you right there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm going to pause you right there. Because Ariya, I know that you probably have not seen Jeff compete. And if you have, you probably didn't remember it.
Okay.
I'll tell you, Jeff and I did like a top 20 like kickers list of all time in sport karate history. Yeah. And I did all the fighters and Jeff did all the forms competitors. Jeff put himself number 2 on the list. Really should have been number 1. I couldn't even believe his number 1. I'm like, yeah, top 5 maybe, but come on, guy. All right. So that's really where Jeff is at. Like he's respected all across the world as one of the best forms experts ever.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Right. So when we're saying that, when he's saying he's getting all that stuff, like for real, that's what it is. Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to do that too much. I just wanted to give some context.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. So I used to come to like walk into my form with a different song every tournament. Then I would do like, I hit myself over the head with a water bottle to get people pumped up before I enter. You know, all the wrestling type stuff. I actually end my form with the elbow drop. So it's just to get the whole crowd going crazy, right? And
yeah, that's awesome.
And so, I mean, that is what drives me. And so when people see like me compete, they see that WWE or that pro wrestling background into it. So I really appreciate that because that's actually what got me into it. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like I want to show people where I came from, right? So strong kick.
You've had a lot of wrestling influences in your forms over your performances.
Really?
A lot of
oh my gosh, yeah, he has.
Are any of these like on YouTube or something? I definitely want to see them. Yeah.
I'll just send you some.
I got another question for you, Ariya. So talking about that, like what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So all the memorable entrances and performances in sport karate, you've been removed for so long from this, but I have a feeling I might know an answer too. Hey, Ariya, you with me there? I think he just froze.
He froze up.
Yeah, he froze up. Hopefully he comes back. Dang it. I was excited for this one.
Oh, there he is.
All right, there he is.
Hey, we're back. All right.
Yeah, you froze for a moment. Okay, I got a question for you. So, like I was just mentioning, I don't know if you heard, but I said you've been removed from sport karate for so long, but you had you were a talented fighter, all right? So who are some memorable performances and performers that you personally remember from that long ago? And I have a feeling I know what you're going to talk about, but go ahead.
I was talking about Raymond Daniels, right?
Well, I just asked you a question.
So I remember you bringing him up to me because here's the thing. I'm glad that I can ask you this because I could never really gauge myself as a fighter. I remember being like the best fighter, I feel like, in our karate studio next to you, you know. But I feel like when I got to my first
10 years older than you.
I know, but still, like I remember there was a while where it was just sparring you because you're the only person who could really kick my ass, and that was really about it. Yeah. And so I never really felt like an elite fighter. Do you think I was one of the better fighters?
Hey,
I want to ask you like unbiasedly.
Here's what I'll say about you, Ariya. Yeah. Right? we don't know, and we'll never know, because you had the potential, because at the time you were a teenager, you had the potential to be one of the best junior black belt fighters in the country. Just what you did. I'm not trying to this is what you gave up. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to let you know where you were. I'm just trying to let you know, here's where your skill level and talent level was. You had the potential to be one of the best junior fighters in the country, and we just don't know. And it's not like you did anything wrong. You're a freaking WWE wrestler, man.
You went after your dream. You made the right choice.
Yeah.
I was
Producers telling us that you made the right choice. I think we all agree.
Yeah, I think we all
I was wearing and I remember specifically I had an NWO T-shirt that I used to wear underneath my gi.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of times, yeah. It was a Kevin Nash Wolfpack T-shirt that I used to wear under my gi, because it was red and black too, just like the red second degree uniforms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hey, so tell me quick. We've talked a lot about because you answered that question, but you didn't really say why. So when I said who are the performances and the performers that you remember that were extra like that, you just right away said Raymond Daniels. Why? Why did you say that? Just curious.
Because you showed me videos. You were the one. We sat in the office and you brought up videos and showed me different videos of him kicking. Mind you, I was very into.
Now at the same time though, I probably showed you 40, 50 videos. Why did that one? Why did he jump out to you?
He just had really fast turn. It was turn side kicks, right?
Yeah.
I feel spin side kicks and stuff like that. I don't know. Was it because he was fighting you too?
Yeah. Yeah, that has happened.
Yeah.
Did you see? Did you see the one where I beat him? Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously I was just because I couldn't beat you, so seeing someone I was like, here's someone who can beat Alex because he's unbeatable in my eyes.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some guys in sport karate world that have touched the wrestling world, and there's some guys that really have the personality that they could be great in that wrestling realm. And I think you hit it. Personality wise, man, I think because Raymond's so extra, right? I think that could be him.
He could do it.
But I mean,
when he's done with MMA, I think he should probably try it. I mean,
that's
a lot of good guys in MMA.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know about that though. Thinking about Raymond doesn't have that jactitude to him. Ariya's muscles look like they could choke me out from Skype.
I'm just saying, but now you don't have to be as big as what you used to have to be. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's where the top person is 200 pounds or 205. You know what I mean? So hey, I mean, I think Raymond could do it. I think MVP that attitude would be kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. But I mean, the first, cool. Not the first one, but one of the guys that really did it was Ernest the Cat Miller. You know, he was he was on JPM. He was a point fighter, top ranked. I mean, he was also
he even came back and started competing just a few years ago.
Did he really?
Oh yeah, man.
Still,
yeah.
He's still doing it.
See, Arya, he's paving the way for you to make a comeback.
He still trains with the guys down in Georgia. Yeah, he still trains all the time. So him, and then he trains down there in Georgia.
Oh hell yeah, that's awesome. I used to watch him on TV all the time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And Sonny Ono, who was his. We talked about him last week because Alex did not know he was in pro wrestling.
I had no clue.
Yeah, he did a lot between New Japan and WCW and stuff. So, and even Eric Bischoff was a former point fighter, karate fighter, and full contact fighter in the 70s and 80s. So it's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, martial arts 100% was able kind of get me ready for pro wrestling, because a lot of pro wrestling is just having body control, you know, and I feel like we work on that so much at National Karate that got me ready from 4th grade till junior year of high school. That got me ready for that.
Hey Ariya, I want you to talk about this brief little combo you and I had probably a couple months ago. And I remember you posted a pic of you blasting some dude in the ring with a sidekick. And I'm like, heck yeah, guy pivots, turns his hip over and everything.
Yeah.
You and I called you up and we were talking about it. But dude, I don't know if you remember that conversation.
No, so dude, throwing kicks like that, like it's crazy to say, but it's like second nature. I just at least with my right leg, I can drill those kicks like
Yeah.
it's second nature. So anytime I gotta kick a guy in wrestling, and I always tell guys too. I watch when I'm watching guys like throw kicks, I can tell which guys like have actually been trained and
Mm-hmm.
learned a legitimate kick, or what guys
Right.
are just like imitating a pro wrestling kick, and like it looks so bad too, and it's
Yeah.
so hard not to call them out on it.
Yeah.
But I mean that actually made me really happy because the fact that I had someone like you still commenting saying this dude still knows how to throw a kick. In my head, I still know how to throw these kicks, but to
Right.
actually get the stamp of approval saying like, yes,
That-
after all these years, even though you haven't done it in forever, you're still throwing these right. And that was made my heart feel very good.
That's awesome.
The part of that combo that made me giggle a little bit, as you said, like, oh yeah, I was talking to these guys. You're like, guys, come on now, wrestling's fake enough. You can't have fake kicks.
Yeah.
Let's go get the kick around. Come on,
Yeah, right.
guys.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, that's so funny. All right, wait, hold on. We've been glossing over this question. All right, so
Oh, so
Alex and we had this show every week. I have to tell him to shut up a bunch of times, and he's got
All
a
the
big
time.
mouth and everything, and he gets it. I have to tell him to chill out a little bit, like sometimes he's so hype and freaking out about everything. I have to tell him, Alex, breathe, chill out. So, what was it like having Alex as a karate instructor?
Oh, that's a great one.
All right, we need to know what that's like,
all right. So I always say this. I had two older brothers growing up, and I always like we did like obviously Sean being the wrestler, we got a lot tighter as we grew into wrestling together. And then I have an oldest brother. Well, I was kind of looked up to him, but the age difference was big enough that like when he was 18, I was like 9, so we weren't really hanging out and stuff like
Right.
that. So I always felt like when there was like an older dude in my life, I always kind of like looked up to them a little bit. And that was 100% Alex. Like I looked up to him because like more than just like I was not like an instructor, like an older brother type guy, and like literally teaching me how to kick ass. I'm like, this guy's a legit guy watching my back. Like I always just kind of felt that for some reason.
That's
And
awesome.
honestly, like going and watching Alex compete in tournaments and he pushed me to do a lot. You pushed me to do a lot more tournaments than I probably would have done on my own. Like anytime I was like, I don't know if I want to do this or whatever. Like, of course you want to. Sometimes you would just be like, I'm already signing you up. And I'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
I guess I'm doing it then.
But
My
that's
parents,
what the instructor does.
yeah. My parents were always down. I'm sure they enjoyed the fact that they had, their kid on with getting some
I
more
missed your parents. They're
discipline.
great. I
Yeah.
used to bump into them every now and then.
Yeah. So honestly, and then I remember going to tournaments and watching you compete. And every time I watched you compete, that would like re-amp me up to be like, all right, yeah, that's right. That's why I'm coming to these tournaments. I know I'm better than all these fools. Like, let's go. I'm ready to do this. He would hype up the competitive side of me just because I'd watch you succeed so much. And I said, like, okay, like I'm watching you kill it and I have access to you. You are my instructor.
Right.
Like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be killing it too.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
So that was cool, Ariya. Thanks for that compliment. But I want to tell you. So here's a little bit. And you probably don't even remember this, Ariya. So Ariya, Jeff was he's a self-motivated kid. But like a lot of us had, Ariya had a classmate that they were like, dude, tight with this kid named Tom. All right. And they were tight and they progressed together. They were the two best in their class without a question. It was Ariya and Tom whooping the heck out of everybody else. But they were having fun because they were both doing it. And they knew like we were going to have like a class tournament. Like, all right, you go on that side, I'll go on this side. And we'll see which one wins in the end. And it was that, and that's exactly what it was going to be like. Well, then eventually Ariya surpassed Tom to the point where now Tom was just like, all right, Tom realized he's whooped, right? Tom can't hold a candlestick to him. Tom falls off, and Ariya's like, who else do I got? And that's where you got to pick him up. Now, here's the funny part. This is where insert my brother comes in. And this is what's also funny. My brother and I don't look a thing alike.
Right.
Ariya and my brother look like they're dang near twins. That's not even joke, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the pictures I've seen.
So
That's very true. Yeah.
my mom's from Sicily, and Adam looks like he is too. So Adam's older than Arya. How old are you right now, Arya?
31.
30, yes. So Adam's older than you by a little bit, right? So and Adam was pretty talented, and Adam does not have a PC personality. And I remember like, Adam, man, you got to work with this guy. This guy's going to be good. That kid, you not. This is my brother. He's like, man, he's not good. I just whooped him. And I'm like, I understand that, Adam. You're not getting it. Like, I'm telling you, he's going to be really good. He goes, how's he good? I just beat him. And he would walk away. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. You're not understanding.
Yeah.
Fast forward.
Yeah. Like you said, he's not a great teacher, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, not at all.
No. Yeah.
Not at all. I remember asking my brother, him, because he was really, really good at doing a double leg. We had a team for him one time. He would do it like literally over me. Like he got to the point where he was so good I could just stand and he could do it over me. And I asked him one time, I'm like, yeah, Adam, man, tell me, man, you're so good at this double leg, man. I'm not getting it the way you are. Tell me how are you doing it? What am I not getting? Kid you, word for word, kid you not, is what he said. He goes, man, I don't know what to tell you. You must just suck or something. I don't know. I just go right into it. I do it. How come you can't do it? I did it. Why you suck?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. That's great. So that's what it was like a little bit. So with Ariya really had that moment where it was like he realized what it was like in class. All of a sudden he's at the top and there's no one else there, and that's when I'm like, bro, you got to get out to these competitions. You got to get out to these competitions. Right. So that's what it was like. And every great karate instructor has had someone who has had that same conversation over and over, and it never ends. But then you end up on 205 Live.
Yeah. What was that like? Because you in the inaugural tournament, right? You were.
Yeah, CWC.
Right? Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cruiserweight Classic, right?
Yeah, so that was a whole kind of came together a little bit by luck too, because I had an NXT tryout in 2014. Like I went and did some like extra work at the Target Center once. I had to do a dark match against the Great Khali.
Oh God!
Wow!
Dude, yeah, that dude's like 7'5", giant.
Yeah.
Giant.
What do you do with that?
Not
it's
a
like
whole
fighting
lot.
a wall.
Not a whole lot.
Just
get chopped, and I take this giant choke slam and all this kind of shit. But anyway, they obviously thought I did a good job. So afterwards, they said, "Hey, we're gonna send you down to Orlando to go do an NXT tryout." So I go like, "All right, like this is it. I'm not gonna f this up. Let's go." Trading my ass off, doing all this shit, getting ready for it. I go down there, and a guy by the name of Chad Gable, he's a pro wrestler on SmackDown right now. He's from Minnesota too, and he wrestled on the independent scene with me, and he got signed like 6-7 months before I went and did this tryout. So he was actually helping out with the camp. So because he's my boy, he was kind of telling me, he goes, "Hey, this is what I've seen they're kind of looking for, and this is the guys who stand out do this, this, and this, and just so you know." So he kind of gave me some pointers, and I was like, all right, sweet, let's go do this. So it's 3 days of just practicing, doing drills, weightlifting stuff, kind of just a lot of like shit just to see like what kind of like combine type stuff, just kind of see what you're made out of. And, I did that fine. It wasn't a big deal. What's really important is basically you have to do a 1-minute promo and you have to have an 8-minute match. So I do my promo. Later, Chaz tells me, he goes, "Dude, I thought you killed it. I was watching the coaches' faces. They were all nodding along. You killed it on your promo." And I was always very confident in my promo, too. I have a match. The match goes well, too. William Regal's telling me very encouraging things the whole time. So I'm leaving that tournament, I'm leaving that tryout going like, I think this is it. Like, I think I'm going to get signed. I get the email that says, "Thank you for coming down. Unfortunately, at this time, blah blah." And I was like, I see the word "unfortunately," and like my heart just like dropped out of my body, because I was just like, I just had this is the official tryout.
Right.
Like I can't show them anything else more. Like I gave them what I got, and they said no. And I sat on the couch kind of in disbelief for like 10-20 minutes. I screenshotted that email and I said, I'm going to hold on to this email. And I said, I got a full calendar of shows coming up. Like, I'm going to just go and like F it. I'm gonna continue on. This ain't the end. This definitely ain't the end. I'm gonna keep doing this.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I did more independent wrestling for another like year or two, and then, like I said, with a stroke of luck, WWE or Triple H came up with this thing called the CWC, where he wanted 32 unsigned like independent talent from all over the world, actually.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and of all the like, there's so many independent wrestlers that could have been chosen, and I think just from going and showing my face and probably from doing the tryout, I'm sure they keep tabs on everyone. Like, honestly, I don't know why I didn't get signed. The reason I'm starting to think I didn't get signed is they were just like, man, we got a bunch of people right now. Like, it's not that he's bad. It's just, we just don't need any extra people right now,
Right.
And only like 3 people out of my like 60 roster tryout got signed anyway, So maybe they were looking for something specific that I didn't fit. So I started thinking like it must have not been performance wise, because when they started saying, hey, let's get 32 unsigned guys who we think are good enough to just be at like no WWE training, like we're just going to throw you on WWE TV and hope you do well and don't embarrass the company basically. When I got chosen to do that, that was just kind of, like I said, part of it was just luck. But I think me going there and I was busting my ass and doing well made them remember me and say, hey, we can use this guy.
Yeah.
So, and that's how the CWC came to be.
And even out of those 32, only a few still got signed after that, right? So
yeah. And that was the other thing too. There was actually a couple guys were signed before the tournament even happened. So
oh wow.
My buddy Noam Dar, the Bollywood Boys, I think T.J. Perkins, Grand Metalik, these guys got contracts before the tournament even started.
Right.
Me,
I
was
they
just
already are taking up spots, and now you're
just,
fighting for
like I said, because they knew they needed to get some more people under deals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did he just freeze again? He froze again. But man,
there we go.
Okay, you're back. All right, you're back.
So they had some people. They had some people signed already, and in my head, I was like, I just gotta impress. I gotta impress. And as the tournament, I was one and done. I did one match, and I was out the first round. Me and Mustafa Ali were the only 2 guys that got eliminated the first round that ended up getting signed. Yeah. Everybody else, like, they went to the second round, third round. Clearly, the company had like eyes on these guys. Like these are the guys who are going to go far in the tournament. It was pretty obvious, like who they were picking favorites with. But me and Mustafa Ali, we were brought in. We were eliminated first round. But of all those guys who got eliminated first round, we did a good enough job that they offered us full-time deals afterwards as well too.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and believe it or not, there are some guys who get an opportunity like the CWC, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And if it doesn't go the way they want it to go, they're actually gonna like bitch and complain about it. Like I was happy to be there. I was happy to do good business. I was, they were putting me on a platform that was only gonna if I didn't get a job out of this, it was still gonna excel my wrestling career. They just put me on a national platform. So even if I go back to independent wrestling, I can now charge more money and more people know who I am. And like they were doing me a very solid
big time
just by booking me in this tournament, giving me the biggest exposure of my career. So I was happy to be there. And I said, I'm going to bust my ass as hard as I can to impress them as best as I possibly can. And I must have, because it got me a job.
And there you go. There's, for people that don't know, like, you put your martial arts, the things you really learn from martial arts, not just kicks and punches, into what you want to do in life, like that determination, that drive, that focus, and you kept going, and you looked at things when others would see like, this is a struggle, I need to step back, and you saw it as, no matter what it is, I'm learning, right?
Yeah.
It's all going to help me. And that's the people that are successful, that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, you got, thank you. And you guys can attest to this. Like, you guys are on the level that you are. Like, it wasn't easy. Like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But there's a reason why you get to the level that you're at, because you just keep on grinding. Like, don't get me wrong, there's so many guys in Minnesota that I wrestled with who are super talented and perhaps even more talented than me, but they just didn't have that drive to keep going when times got tough. They didn't want to improve their game. They may have just wanted to keep doing the same old thing, and that's kind of why it never really worked out for them, even though they had the talent. You got to have the talent plus that little something extra, that kind of keeps pushing you forward, especially when things go bad. Man, I had stretches, 6 month stretches where I felt like I was having stinkers of matches and like things weren't coming together and stuff like that. And sometimes you just go like, why am I even doing this? Like, if I suck, I should quit. And then you just kind of have to get out of that mentality and keep going forward,
Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple of questions. There's a lot to unpack there. So when you said, and that was gonna ask you if that was the case, when you said, there's a lot of talented guys that aren't signed, some even more talented than me. How many? Just give me like an estimate. How many guys do you think that are out there that the average person doesn't know that are so talented they're on a WWE level, but nobody knows their name? How many people do you think that really is?
If we're talking just in the country, I would probably say 30, 40, 50 guys probably who are insanely talented. I could probably think of a lot of guys.
Knows. That
I would say
nobody
that
knows.
not nobody knows,
But your average guy, I'm not going to know. Something like that.
Right, yeah. If I just brought some guy off the street, like, do you know this guy? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Dude,
I would know him, but Alex.
Yeah. Dude, the amount, and worldwide, it's even more. 500, 600. Dude, there's tons of talented people all over the world. Like, you got to understand, there's only so many limited spots. Right now, it seems like wrestling's blowing up. There's New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, WWE. But at the end of the day, that's still a finite amount of spots.
Right.
With how much talent is out there, and becoming a professional wrestler, breaking into the business is actually a little bit easier now because there's so many schools. So there's a lot more wrestlers now, which is great. The business is still expanding, and I love that. That makes me so happy.
It just makes the product better.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
look, I have a job because the business continued to progress. If I was gotten to pro wrestling 20 years ago, a 5'10", 180-pound guy would not have been. It would have been very tough, to get in. So the business evolving and changing to what it has become today is the reason why I'm able to have a career now, and that's what I'm thankful that it continues to evolve and continues to get better.
So, all right, so let's go through just a couple of things too. I know you have a couple of questions too, but I wanted to before you got to the WWE, who were maybe, let's say, two people that you enjoyed wrestling with, or your rivals, or your best matches, or just someone that you want to shout out, some big memories.
So the first one, there's this guy named the Anarchist Eric Cannon. He's a Minneapolis. I'll call him a Minneapolis legend. He broke in with my brother, so around 99, 2000, and he was kind of like the. So you know how I kind of said, Alex, you were like my older brother in the martial arts world. This guy was kind of like my older brother in the independent pro wrestling world, because my actual older brother was traveling in the WWE, so I didn't get to see him. Yeah. But Eric was a guy who was really close with my brother. I've known Eric used to come to our house. So when I was like 7, 8 years old, so I've known him for a long time. So he always kind of looked out for me, helped me out when I first started. So he was a guy who I wrestled more than anybody. And he's actually the guy who I wrestled the very first time we sold out First Ave. So he is a guy very like near and dear to my heart. He's still one of my best friends to this day. We still hang out and stuff when we can. Which is tougher now because we used to wrestle together and hang out together, so we saw each other all the time. Now our wrestling schedules are completely different. He's a traveling independent wrestler. I'm traveling with WWE, so now we actually, when we hang out, it's not at wrestling shows. It's just going out to dinner or restaurants or concerts and stuff like that, just kind of doing like regular life stuff, which is cool in itself. And then honestly, I want to think of one other guy. There's a guy named Ryan Cruz. There's a guy named Sepio Saunders. There's a guy named Ricky Love. Just tons of these guys who I just always had so much fun with, because we became we're like a traveling clique, We all are the Minnesota guys, the Midwest guys, and we kind of travel around together. So we kind of get to know each other pretty well too. So when you're out there performing with your buddies too, that makes it a lot better, because now you're out there just having fun, goofing off, it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. Oh, and again, let's get into some history too. Like, you're part of the Minnesota crew. So back in the day, in the 80s, there was a Minnesota crew, and it included like the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, Barry Darsow was part of Demolition. All these guys, Rick Rude, all
Kurt
these guys
Hennig.
that were big. Yeah, Kurt Hennig. All these big guys that all used to be bouncers.
Yeah.
So you're kind of from that. Well, 20 years.
Yeah.
New crew from there. Who else is either in WWE from Minnesota right now, or even at a high level like AEW or somewhere else?
So there's a guy. There's Chad Gable, obviously.
Yeah.
Him. Dozer is actually a Minnesota guy. Otis. He's Mr.
Oh
Money in
yeah.
Mr. Money
Oh
in the
man,
Bank. Yeah, he's a
he's
Minnesota
killing it right
guy.
now, man.
Yeah. Even though technically he's from South Dakota, but still Brock Lesnar, Minneapolis,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Right, right.
That's cool.
That's the guy I think we should all claim. We
Yeah,
take Brock
you need to
Lesnar.
claim him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Curtis Axel and Eric Rowan, they're
Of
also
course.
Minneapolis guys. They unfortunately no longer work with WWE, but
Yeah.
they're saying there's always been a good history of. And the thing is, guys who aren't from Minnesota, they've all come through here. Like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair,
Yeah.
they've all spent time here. Like they've
Yeah,
lived
they all
here for a while, stuff
trained
like that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A lot of those guys come through. Iron Sheik came here and trained and stuff like that. AWA, is a very
yeah,
big,
it's crazy. Yeah, just how
uh,
yeah, rich in heritage it is. So
yeah.
Here's something you might not know about that, Jeff. So there's a gym in Minnesota called The Gym.
yeah.
Aria, you know what I'm talking about, right? Aria, you there?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the one the Road Warriors used to own.
Yeah, the ones that
Or one of them, the Animal
So
did.
The Gym, when you go in there, all it is, you see on the wall, you don't see bodybuilding pictures as much. You just see it's all pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's basically a pro wrestling hangout.
That's
So when I go in, I remember when I first went in there, he asked me to go in there. Dig how much I stuck out, right? Now my basketball playing self goes in there with basketball shorts, like hooping sneakers, right? And like a shiny like sleeveless basket. Like I'm ready to go play basketball. I'm in there to go lift, but it was like someone scratched a record. All right, that's where all the guys that you just mentioned, and they would go and work out there. They have pieces of equipment there you'll never see at another gym. All right, not any other. Then you just see stuff like that. You just be like, what is this? What is this contraption? We're like, oh yeah, that's supposed to hit just the inside of your bicep. Like what? Like just that? Like yeah. So I go in there and immediately you just like no, you understand. This is not just an activity. This is a culture and a lifestyle that everybody is a part of.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've heard about the gym, so I've heard about that. Yeah. So
all right, cool then. All right. What am I talking about? So here's like Aria, like Jeff and I had this thing back and forth. I want to talk about the NBA all the time.
Yeah.
And Jeff wants to talk about wrestling. He probably doesn't want to talk about wrestling as much as I want to talk about the NBA, but he does want to talk about wrestling.
Well, yeah. So we have a crew of other podcasters too, of all of us that we just have a separate group chat that we just talk about wrestling. So.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But all right. So we talked about before you got to WWE. All right, mention some of your biggest moments so far since you've been in the WWE, and then I just kind of want to talk about, what are your goals moving on from there, so we can kind of get into that.
So some of the big moments I've had in WWE, they're all kind of mini bucket list things that other wrestlers I've seen do on TV that I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'm glad I got to do that. And some of them are so dumb and silly, but like, so for starters, like, I always think it's pretty awesome that 205 Live, even though it's not the most popular TV show, like my WWE career is based off the fact that the WWE made a new television show for me to wrestle on. And that's something that I always think is kind of like overlooked, that like, and it's still going today. Like it's still on every single week. And so like when the history books are all said and done, there was a time like my debut came on a brand new television show that WWE made. And I always thought like, man, that was pretty cool. So I was really proud to be a part of that. So I had this, I got to do an I Quit match with this guy named Jack Gallagher. And to set that up, we did a contract signing, which is a very like old school thing in pro wrestling where you go there and sign the contract for the match and it always ends up with a table getting flipped and you start fighting. So like I got to do one of those. And I remember when we were doing it, I was like, man, this is usually what they do for like the main event guys for like the world title of a pay-per-view. I don't know if I'll ever be in that position. So I'm still getting this regardless of that. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
getting this whole moment, getting all that
That was
stuff.
cool, man. I remember watching that and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is different. Like they don't let these guys
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
So
usually lower card guys, they don't get to do
yeah,
these kind of things. So anytime we get to do something, like that's the way I kind of look at it. Anytime I get to do something that usually it's reserved for main event guys, that's usually the stuff that I remember
yeah,
from being like a little kid. Like the
yeah.
first
Like
time
driving
I
the car. Yeah,
yeah, driving the car. The first time they're like, "Hey, you get to have like a hardcore match this week." So the first time I got to like jump off a ladder through a table on WWE TV, I was like, "Man, I got to do that." I used to watch my heroes do that all the time, and like it was exactly like how it's gonna be. The crowd went crazy because they love that kind of stuff. The
yeah,
first time we got to brawl through the crowd, and there's like I said, I do that in independent shows all the time, but to get to do it in arenas and be there with thousands of people screaming and hooting and hollering. I was like, man, this is stuff I used to watch my heroes do, and now I get to do that. The Saudi Arabia show I got to do with my brother, like that was cool just to be able
yeah.
to share a ring with my older brother. You know, to this day, I'm still hoping that me and him get to have a tag team run in the
Dude, definitely
WWE. You
need that
know,
to happen.
and I you know he's in great shape. He still loves wrestling. He's only 35 or he's 36, so like
Yeah,
he can
geez,
still
he can
go.
still go
Yeah,
for a long time.
yeah, definitely he can still go. And so tagging with him and getting to that thing in Saudi Arabia was cool. Just because like man, we're two like kids from Minnetonka who are
Right.
just wrestling fans. And like when we were like backing up the ramp, I remember he grabbed me and he told me he's like, "I love you, man." And I remember thinking like, man, like we did it, man. We're like on a WWE stage, the two of us together. Like
It's
we used to
so
just be
awesome.
fans watching
Yeah,
this shit, and now we're here, like we did it. So that's one that's very like near and dear to my heart. But um, I don't. There's still just so much more I want to do. Like I want to do it all. Everything my heroes did, I want to do. I want to be in Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias and win titles and tag titles with
yeah,
my friends and just keep doing this, man. Like right now, I'm living a childhood dream as a job. Like it's kind of
yeah.
crazy. Sometimes when I like sit back and think about it, I go like, this is what I used to enjoy as a kid, and now I get to do it myself. I get to continue doing it. So like, it's kind of trippy to think about sometimes. But all these moments, like sometimes they just kind of all blur together because it's just every single week we're going every single
Right.
week. Like
Yeah,
I've
you
had
guys'
I've
schedule's
had
crazy.
yeah, I've had so many matches that when that match was over with, I'm in the locker room like, man, that was so great. That was like a life changing match. I feel so good. And then 3 weeks later, I already forgot what I did because I've already had three other matches since
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
So, you know, like I said, so those standout moments are like different moments when it comes to like matches. Like they all kind of just blend together. You know, lots
right,
of
right.
times you
It's the
wrestle the same
moments that,
guy.
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
moment. That's what most of the guys say. It's the moments that really stand out more than the matches. You know?
yeah, because like
Yeah,
you said, when you're just grinding away match after match after match, you know, you just kind of they all kind of blend together. You know, I can't even
right.
imagine asking a Seth Rollins or a John Cena other than massive pay-per-views. Like
Yeah,
you can't ask them to be like, hey, recall these matches you had. You know, they're like they
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Thousands upon thousands.
Correct. Yeah, and
Right.
like myself, I mean, I remember seeing Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan wrestle in Ring of Honor in Manassas, Virginia, and be
Yeah,
like, "This is the best match I've seen live,"
yeah,
and just being like, "Man, they won't remember that, even though that was like it stood out to me even to this day. It's like, man, that
right,
was amazing, But
yeah,
and that's what's so cool about pro wrestling and all of the stuff that everybody does. It's that it touches people in different ways. You know what I mean? Like, and we get that too in sport karate too. It's and you've talked about that, Alex, too, just about
Yep.
how maybe when your students, Jackson talking to your student for a little bit made such a big difference. And how someone saw me do a kick or something, and they were like, "Man, I'll never forget that." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I may not, the person doing it may not even think of it as a big deal, but it was to that person in the audience or even, standing right next to you,
right,
So it's pretty cool. I think we're all pretty blessed to be able to do these
yeah.
things that we love doing, and be a part of things like that. So
I would say there was one moment I forgot to mention, and that was wrestling at Target Center for the first time in Minneapolis. So I've been going to the
Oh,
Target since I was a little kid. I always went to the Target Center and watched wrestling. So to go there and like, this is when I can finally send out that mass text to all my friends who have known me since I was a little kid and stuff like that. They're all in Minnesota. Like, hey, I'm a WWE wrestler now, and I'm wrestling at the Target Center, and
right.
like. I was like when the first time
Get
I
your ticket, punk.
yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I wrestled, we did 205 at the Target Center. Like I was a full blown. I've always been a heel. I've been a full blown
Right.
heel, and
Yeah.
I remember talking to the
They're some
producer.
of the best wrestlers of all time. They're the most famous
Yeah,
wrestlers ever. Heels.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember. I remember telling the producer of our match. I was like, and we're still fairly new at this point. We're 205's only been on for like a month or two right now. We're in Minneapolis, and I told the producer I was like, they might cheer me tonight. Like this is Minneapolis, blah blah blah. And he was so like, oh, you're so smug. Like you've been here 2 months. You think these people are gonna know who you are? Like you're an independent wrestler here. Like this is an arena full of people. Like this is 8, 10,000 people. Like you wrestle in bars and this and that. Like
Yeah.
I was like, all right, my music
You're like,
hits.
all right, watch me, watch me, watch me,
No,
bro.
you know what? You know what though? Deep down, I was a little bit like, damn, he's right. You know what? Like I wrestle at first half. That's like 1,000 people. There's gonna be 10,000 people here. So, and every person who's at first half is definitely not gonna be here. So,
Yeah.
I started thinking like, damn, maybe he's right. My music hit. My name hits up on the fucking Titan. Sorry, I can't swear. My name hits up on the Titantron, and there's an audible like pop in Gorilla where the whole crowd just roars. And I go,
Yes.
man, I go, these people. I think that because man, Wikipedia is a thing now. Internet's a thing.
Right.
People know where people are
Where
from.
you're
It's
from.
not a
Yeah.
secret. I'm from Minneapolis. I come out, so there's a big reaction for it. They say my name and they say from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So then every person who didn't
Boom.
know
Yeah.
now also
They
stands up
know.
and
Yeah.
cheers. The rest of that match, we were the bad guys, but they were cheering me every time I was in and all that
That's
kind of
awesome.
stuff. So
And Minnesota's got a big thing. Like, if you're one of us, like, we
yeah,
get behind.
sure.
If you're
Yeah.
one of us, like, we get it.
And then when I got to the back, like the producer didn't say nothing, but all the boys, they were all kind of laughing and stuff like that. They're like, "Man, you told him." And I was just saying, like, I might get a reaction. And you're right, that is a big part of it. Though, like when you're a Minnesota guy, like you're one of us, like it don't matter if they know when they heard, hey, he's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That or like I heard the Target Center like loud cheer for me, and I was like, that's kind of cool. That feels like I kind of made it, like
Damn.
yeah.
Who
Imagine
are?
that, Jeff. Jeff, imagine going
I
to
know.
uniform in the finals.
Yeah,
10,000 people
I
there.
know,
They say
man.
your name, and the room shakes.
I know.
It was
I
crazy.
know.
Right?
It's insane, man. It's like, man, and everyone says it's like it's a feeling that no one. I mean, you can't even
Yeah,
say. You
yeah.
can't. It's just
Can't,
it's awesome.
can't I can't replicate it, but
Yes,
it was a very cool moment to be like, cool, I got to do this in my hometown.
that's awesome, man.
Hey, I got a couple
I
questions for
Yeah,
you, real
go
quick.
ahead.
Oh, but go ahead. Go. No, go, Jeff. Jeff, go
No,
for
I
it.
was just gonna say who are or who is your producer or who have been someone that has kind of helped you backstage that kind of help and lead you.
Well,
Who
that's
are
a
some
good
Oh,
one.
of those benefits?
yeah. Oh, tons of guys. So before they left for AEW, Dean Malenko and Arn Anderson were
Oh,
very, very helpful. So such good guys, and again, like dudes that I've been watching since I was a little kid. So the fact
right.
that I get to pick the brain of Dean Malenko, I was like,
Yeah,
man, this is amazing.
right.
Um, Scott Armstrong, who's the brother of Road Dogg, Jesse James, and
Yeah,
Brad
the
Armstrong.
referee and
Yeah, the whole Armstrong family, great wrestlers. He was always really good to me. He was actually, I'm pretty sure Scott Armstrong was a big part of why I got into the CWC because one time, so they said no at the NXT tryout, I went back and did extra work when they came back to town again anyway. I remember thinking like I didn't want to do it because I was like, well, they already said no to me, but I was like, whatever, I'll go anyway. And Scott Armstrong pulled me aside there and said, like, hey man, I think you're really good. I think you're very talented. Like, let me send some emails and texts. I want to see what I can do for you. And after that, eventually I got put into the CWC. So he was a big one to help me out for that a lot.
that's awesome.
That's dope. Hey, when you get back from being frozen,
Yeah.
because you froze again, I'm gonna have something for him. Let's see where he's at. No, he's still frozen.
Man.
Okay, so no, that's all right. That's all right.
Oh, yeah.
He'll come
Yeah,
back.
all right.
Um, So Jeff, I'm gonna talk to you then.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about this because I'm gonna ask him as soon as he comes back. What would be cooler, having an action figure?
Oh yeah.
Or being in a freaking video game? Because it's
both.
both. Because I know some college athletes, like some friends who played college ball.
Right.
Like they were in there, but they can't have their name in there. Like, nah, this is just him, right? If you could only have one of those, if you could have an action figure or be in a video game, which one would it be?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh man,
he'll come back.
I think it would be the action figure because that I can carry that around and be like, hey,
That's what I'm saying. Like you can, I buy them by the thousands.
A game,
We're back.
Yo, you're back, man.
Okay,
right,
sorry.
That's okay.
Did he get cut off before I explained how Scott Armstrong helped me out?
No. As far as you were saying that he pulled you aside and said, "Hey, I think you got something."
Yeah, and he said I'm gonna send some text messages, emails, and then later I got the hit up for the CWC. So Scott Armstrong was a big one, and then Adam Pierce, he's another one who helped me out a lot too. These are all guys who've been in the business for a long time, and I it's crazy the amount of guys who won't ask for their help or pick their brain a little bit. They're veteran advice. You don't have to do everything they say, but I think it's stupid not to at least ask and get some different input because you might be like, oh, okay, shit, that's not a bad idea, and then kind of fine tune it into your own. So anytime they would sit there and listen or offer their advice, it's usually with good intent.
Right. All right. So Alex had a good question.
I have like the most important question.
All right.
Yo, okay, so we're back. So there was a super important question I had to ask you that we just got cut off. We didn't get a chance to hear. So here's what it was. What part is cooler, being in a video game or having your own action figure? You got your own dang action figure.
Yeah.
And you're in the video game as yourself.
Yes.
Oh, you got it right there.
That's awesome.
Oh,
that's
that's
awesome.
Like
you can carry that around.
It's my ID. It's my mini me.
It's my ID. That's the best.
Oh no, we're losing the call again.
We're here. No.
Okay, my screen froze for a second. For me, it was the action figures. So I played video games up until like Nintendo 64, because I played like No Mercy and Revenge and all those wrestling games. But after Nintendo 64, I kind of fell off. But I had so many action figures, wrestling action figures when I was a kid, like WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW. Like my mom had like crates and crates of all these wrestling toys I had, and like obviously like most guys you grow out of them, but she still kept them all, and she still has them somewhere. Yep. But deep down in my heart, like knowing from my pure fandom as a kid, when I got signed and I was like on the road and wrestling, I kept thinking, I was like, damn, like I really hope I get an action figure. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed just because you're in WWE, you're gonna get an action figure, because a lot of guys come and go. Who knows if they didn't like 205 and they canceled the show? Like I was in the company for almost 3 years before this action figure even came. So it was something like I wasn't going to like bring it up and bug people about it because I was just going to be, professional and cool about it. But I was always like, please, 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 please. I hope I get an action figure. Like, but if I get fired, whatever, as long let me get this action figure because like I just want that. And when I got it, I got two actually, one in the white gear and one in the black gear. And
how many of them do you own? How many of them do you have?
So they sent me like a box of them, which I had to give out to family. So I only have a couple. I have two that I put.
I'd have 1,000 of them. I'd have a closet.
I should have 1,000 of them. I know.
I go to Target right now. It's like, give them. I'd be on Amazon.
It's really cool that I get like tagged in Instagram and Twitter posts of people being like, "Hey man, I bought your toy today," and like gave it to my son, and I was like, "Man, that's awesome," because that's so cool. That's what I used to do. I used to go buy these action figures and play with them too. So that was the one that I was very, very stoked about getting, like an action figure, and I hope I still get more. It was actually there's these two wrestlers named Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. They're big action figure guys.
Yeah, their podcast, it's amazing.
Yeah, and Kurt Hawkins, I remember in the locker room once told Tony Nese, like, hey, just so you know, like they get all the action figure like scoops first. He's like, hey man, you got an action figure coming. And I remember like, dude, I was like, you know that kind of stuff? I was like, can you please let me know? Please let me know. He goes, I think you got one too. I'd imagine it's coming soon. I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah, I think so. And like 2 weeks later, he texts me. He goes, hey man, you're getting an action figure. And I was like, yeah, yes. I was like, I was so excited for that. I was like,
That's
because like
crazy.
that's like, I don't know, it's crazy. I mean, you have
Yeah.
a little toy of yourself. I was like,
That's right.
yeah, I don't
That's
know.
pretty awesome. That is.
All right, now the last question I had, it's actually a little bit more serious as far as the fact of your performance. So you mentioned a couple of times, like, man, I hope I don't mess up. Like I hope I do really well. How does that functionally work? So, and we all hear about different things, like, all right, it's designed for it to go kind of like this, but I'm assuming you have some autonomy to do a little bit of whatever it is that you want in some ways. Now, we've heard stories of other people. Did he freeze again?
Think he did.
He froze again. I think we never had so much freezing before.
No,
Right?
man.
We've never had this. That's okay. So I'll just talk to you about it, Jeff. So I'm really curious about that because, you hear stories like about what's it called, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Like Ultimate Warrior, he would go rogue, and he would just like call people out in the middle of the show, and like, oh, you're really this, but you never beat a warrior, and like he would just totally change the outcome of what it was supposed to be. And he's like, dude, you just pulled the dick move. Like, come on now. Right. The whole thing was not supposed to go this way. And that's what I was wondering, like, how does that really work? Like, is it supposed to go like this? Is it supposed to go like that? You know what I mean? I'm curious as to how that goes. Ariya just like he's gonna jump back in, and then we're gonna get his answer and go from there.
And then
we're loving the
podcast, man.
In and out. It's making everything interesting.
Yeah, but I'm loving it. It's great to hear. Just again, like you see his martial arts attitude. Yeah, that's coming through, and we'll wrap it up and soon with that, and have this final question about that. And man, I mean,
then we'll have a sign off.
It's been really cool just to interview him, and and get the whole take of I still want maybe I'll message him one day and ask him, tell me the real Alex Steeman, what it was really like having Alex.
When he had me, he doesn't even know. Like he had like young
Alex Steeman.
He had young me. I was like I was teaching him when I was like 18, 19, man. Like young, up until I was like 25. So that's maybe I was 26, 27, 26. Yeah. So from like 18 to like 26 or so. That's when he had me for.
Hey.
So.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So I heard the question. I heard you say. You said something about getting focused, and then it got cut off.
Well, no. My question was that when you mentioned like you can perform, you can have a good performance, you can have a bad performance, but how does it go? Like I'm assuming you have a little bit of autonomy as to how you can do certain things throughout the match, but like it's supposed to be designed for it to go a certain way, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, like, when you say like, oh, I did really well, or I hope it did, I kind of didn't do so well. What was that?
It's a number of things that can potentially go wrong in a match. For example, just a miscommunication and a move getting messed up, or what we call a botch. A guy's going for a standard wrestling move that all the fans know how this move is supposed to be executed, and then you mess it up. It's a pretty embarrassing, especially if sometimes the crowd wants to let you know and they start chanting "you effed up" or something like that, or you can hear people laughing and stuff like that. The funny thing about WWE though is they don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. And if you ever like mess up a spot, as they say, or botch a move or a sequence, they don't care about that stuff because you're doing this night in, night out, just like the law of averages. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up.
This is like the truest reality show.
Yeah,
this is the original reality TV show.
it's
Right.
a real life stunt show with no do-overs, you know.
Right.
So
Boom.
yeah, so that's why I say like accidents can happen. So that's one case that can happen. You can have opponents that you just don't mesh with, whether it's professionally or personally. I haven't really had that issue before. Other people have. Like I do know of guys who had to wrestle each other who don't like each other at all, so it just makes things difficult. I've always been able to get along with my opponents and stuff like that.
Now, what
Um,
about this one though? I got a question
yeah.
though, because like I was just talking to Jeff about this. I said, because like we've heard we hear stories like about. I think probably the most famous one was like guys like the Ultimate Warrior, how they just completely just change the outcome of what it was supposed to be, and they'll just
Yeah.
call guys out, and they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, well you never beat a Warrior," and all of a sudden they
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
and they're just like, now all of a sudden they're on stage in front of everybody cheering, like, "Homeboy, this was not at all what was supposed to happen."
Right.
yeah.
Does
So
that happen? And have you
yeah,
ever been a part of that on one end or the other?
Um, nothing that comes to mind of that happening to me, but people going into business for themselves, as they like to say, and going
Yeah.
against the script. But it's a really frowned upon and taboo thing. Like, luckily, I think the guys who make it to WWE usually have enough respect for the business who don't do shit like that. Like, it does happen sometimes, and there are guys who politic and complain about things, and they don't want to lose, but you've even since I was 7 years old, you never had to explain to me that this is just entertainment.
Right.
I've always known
Always.
that. So it's a taboo thing. It's a frowned upon thing if you take this more seriously than that. If you are the type of guy who says, "No, I can't lose tonight because I need to win tonight," because you're like, "What do you mean you need to win? This is that'd be like Heath Ledger at the end of Dark Knight being like, you know what? I think the Joker should win tonight. I don't think Batman should
Yeah.
lose. And you go like this, like, hey, hey, homie, it's not real. You're not really losing to Batman. This is a show, So people who kind of go against that, I feel like it's a frowned upon. The easiest way to explain it is unprofessional. I take wrestling very
Yeah.
seriously. I
Right.
treat this like a job. It's my career. I take it very seriously. There's all that unprofessional people in every industry in the world, So if you do stuff like that, I consider you pretty unprofessional, and it doesn't go unnoticed in WWE. Like people who do that kind of stuff, it usually ends up biting them in the ass sooner than later. And
Exactly.
when you
Exactly.
when you bring up someone like the Ultimate Warrior, he had a very, very rocky career with the WWE, with Vince McMahon, and with tons of wrestlers. He was a guy who
Yep.
did that kind of stuff, and it did bite him in the ass. Luckily, before he passed, they were able to kind of make
Actually,
amends and that kind of stuff. But you have that type of attitude in wrestling, it usually doesn't play out in your favor.
yeah. Awesome. Well, what you have coming up next? What's your next thing?
So things are kind of crazy right now with the coronavirus. They're doing shows. I've been at home for a couple months now because they're only using Orlando talent. When I first got
Okay.
signed by WWE, I had to move to Orlando because everyone has to go through the training center and NXT and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
once we were on the road full time with Raw and 205 and all that kind of stuff, I moved back home. I moved back so I could buy a house and kind of set up my life a little bit. And so, because I don't live in Orlando anymore right now due to the coronavirus, they're only using talent that live in Orlando. Or if someone is very integral to the show,
Right.
they'll fly them out. So I've kind of been on vacation a little
Yeah.
bit, like
Okay.
not really.
Now,
'Cause
what if you wanted to just be like, "Hey, I'll get to Orlando."
Oh, it's up to them.
Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I've been talking to them, and they know that this is just a, in my opinion, a smart precautionary thing that WWE is doing. They're
Oh,
saying
that's a good point.
we have a lot of, because here's the thing, a lot of guys who go down to NXT, like once they move up to the road, like they kind of settled their life in Orlando, Florida, maybe nicer than where they lived before. So a lot of people just end up staying. So there's about
Heck no, there's way too many snakes there. And
there
not a
is about
chance.
60, 70, maybe not 70, but like 60% of the roster lives within driving distance of this performance center. So rather than risking people coming from other states and other places, they say, let's just use the guys who can drive to the performance center. And that's kind of seems to be what it is moving forward. But each week they seem to be loosening restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just going to be a matter of time before we start getting back to regular wrestling, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, who knows? But right now it's just taking it month by month, really, as the coronavirus updates for all of us.
Right.
I'm seeing this in real time too. You know.
Yeah.
Word.
Well, man,
Could you
I've
ever live in
enjoyed it.
Orlando? I couldn't live in Orlando.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, no, I didn't like a lot of people who stay in Florida, they go to Tampa or something, be by the beach.
Oh,
It's kind of nice, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I can do that.
that's not
That's
too
where it
far.
used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Man, this has been fun for me. Thanks,
No,
Alex. Thanks,
I
Aria.
appreciate you having me on, man. This is awesome.
Now, Arya, before you go, this is what
Yeah.
we had every one of our guests that's on the show, what we asked
Okay.
them to do.
Yeah.
You're the only person whose profession, all right, exists outside of martial arts,
Okay.
or that their main fame is outside of martial arts.
Okay.
So, well, you're the most famous person who's ever been on the cast,
That's
man.
right.
All right. So, but what we ask everybody to do is give a sign off. So if you've given a voice message to the world, and everybody across the world listens to our pod, obviously, right? So if you give a voice message to anybody and everyone listening, what would you say? We'll give it to you.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, world. We give you Ariya Daivari.
If the world is listening to me right now, what I want them to take away from this is that if you've never given professional wrestling a chance, give it a chance, because it can be one of the best forms of entertainment you'll ever see. I promise you. Because here's the thing, there are great movies, there are bad movies. There's good stand up, there's bad stand up, there's good plays, there's bad plays. There are bad forms of everything. Try professional wrestling, because when you see it at its best form, like a WWE or an AEW, it's very, very, very good.
I love it. I love it. That was great.
That was pretty good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right.
I
This has
appreciate
been
you
another
guys.
episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Thank you, Aria, and thank you, guys.